Hello friends, welcome to Buried Truths, where the dust of time is swept away and history's deepest secrets rise to the surface. Let's view the video. Top 15 Wars with the most deaths in history. 1. World War II. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, claiming between 70 and 85 million lives. It spanned 6 continents and involved over 30 nations with battles fought on land, sea, and air across Europe, Asia, and the Pacific. The war began in 1939 when Nazi Germany invaded Poland, triggering declarations of war by Britain and France. It quickly escalated as Italy, Japan, the Soviet Union, and the United States joined opposing alliances, Axis and allies. Nazi ideology led to the Holocaust, resulting in the systematic murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others. Simultaneously, Japan's invasion of China and the Pacific Warfront resulted in countless atrocities and civilian massacres. World War II ended in 1945 after Germany's defeat and the U.S. atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation redefined modern warfare and international law, ushering in the nuclear era. The war's aftermath included the United Nations formation, the Cold War's rise, and decolonization movements worldwide. Its human cost, especially among civilians, remains a powerful reminder of the horrors of total war. 2. The Taiping Rebellion. The Taiping Rebellion erupted in China in 1850, fueled by political unrest, ethnic tensions, and a religious movement led by Hong Xiuquan. His belief in being Jesus' brother inspired millions to rise against the Qing dynasty. Spanning 14 years, the rebellion caused catastrophic devastation across southern China. Entire cities were razed, millions were displaced, and up to 30 million people perished due to warfare, famine, and disease. Taiping controlled large parts of China, establishing their capital in Nanjing. The radical reforms included gender equality, land redistribution, and communal living, threatening traditional Confucian order and Qing authority. The Qing government, with help from Western military advisors, eventually recaptured territories and crushed the rebellion in 1864. Hong died during the siege of Nanjing, marking the movement's collapse. This conflict significantly weakened the Qing dynasty, paving the way for future uprisings and foreign exploitation. Its scale and death toll mark it as the deadliest civil war in history. 3. World War I. World War I, fought from 1914 to 1918, began with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria. It escalated rapidly due to military alliances, drawing in major global powers into one of history's first total wars. The Central Powers, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, faced the Allies including Britain, France, Russia, and later the United States. Western Front saw trench warfare, poison gas, and staggering casualties for minimal territorial gain. Eastern Front was equally brutal, with Russia suffering heavy losses before revolution erupted in 1917. New technology, machine guns, tanks, and aircraft changed the nature of warfare forever, increasing the deadliness of battles. By the war's end, around 20 million were dead, half of them civilians. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 ended the conflict but imposed harsh penalties on Germany, sowing seeds of future strife. World War I reshaped global politics, dismantled empires, and led to the League of Nations formation. It remains a profound example of industrial warfare's horrifying consequences. 4. The An Lushan Rebellion. The An Lushan Rebellion began in 755 CE during China's Tang dynasty. General An Lushan, a powerful military governor, declared himself emperor and launched a full-scale revolt against the central government in Luoyang. His forces quickly captured major cities, including the capital Chang'an, forcing the Tang emperor to flee. The rebellion disrupted the political structure, economy, and society of one of China's most prosperous dynasties. The conflict lasted nearly 8 years and led to mass famine, displacement, and death. Entire provinces were depopulated as millions perished from war, starvation, or disease. Total death estimates range from 13 to 36 million. After An Lushan's assassination by his own son, the rebellion persisted under other leaders. It was only crushed in 763 with foreign military assistance and massive state resources. The Tang dynasty survived. It never fully recovered. The rebellion's destruction marked the beginning of long-term imperial decline and altered the structure of Chinese governance permanently. 5. The Second Sino-Japanese War. The Second Sino-Japanese War began in 1937 when Imperial Japan invaded China. It quickly escalated into a brutal, full-scale war marked by horrific atrocities and massive civilian casualties across the Chinese mainland. Japanese forces launched a lightning offensive, capturing key cities like Shanghai and Nanjing. In Nanjing, Japanese troops committed one of history's worst war crimes, the Nanking Massacre, killing over 300,000 civilians and prisoners. China's nationalist and communist forces temporarily united against Japan. The prolonged resistance, combined with Japan's overextension and brutality, made the conflict one of the most savage in modern Asian history. This war later merged into World War II after the Pearl Harbor attack. Chinese cities faced relentless bombings, while millions died due to famine, disease, and displacement. By 1945, an estimated 15 to 20 million Chinese had died. The war transformed China's political future and deepened hostility toward Japan that persists today. 6. The Dungan Revolt. The Dungan Revolt erupted in 1862 when Hui Muslim communities in China's northwest rebelled against the ruling Qing dynasty. Religious tension, taxation, and administrative abuse fueled the uprising. It was one of several Muslim uprisings in 19th-century China. The revolt spread across Shanxi, Gansu, and Xinjiang provinces, engulfing both Muslims and Han Chinese in fierce battles and massacres. Entire cities were wiped out as both Qing and rebel forces committed atrocities. Civilians often bore the brunt of violence, and starvation followed widespread destruction of farmland and infrastructure. After 15 years of conflict, Qing forces brutally crushed the rebellion. Death estimates range from 8 to 12 million, many of them non-combatants caught in sieges or famines. The revolt left Western China deeply scarred and depopulated. It also heightened mistrust between ethnic and religious groups, with long-term consequences for intercommunal relations in the region. 7. The Russian Civil War. The Russian Civil War began in 1917 after the Bolsheviks overthrew the provisional government. The conflict pitted the Red Army against the White Army and included anarchists, nationalists, and foreign intervention forces. The Reds, led by Lenin and Trotsky, sought to establish a communist regime. The Whites, a loose coalition of monarchists and anti-communists, fought to restore the old order or create democratic alternatives. Warfare ravaged the countryside, and mass executions, famine, and disease followed. The Cheka, the Soviet secret police, carried out brutal purges known as the Red Terror. Civilians suffered immensely on both sides. Foreign nations, including Britain, France, the US, and Japan, intervened briefly. The war destabilized vast regions of Russia and led to millions of deaths. Some estimates go as high as 12 million. By 1923, the Bolsheviks emerged victorious, forming the Soviet Union. The war's chaos shaped Russian politics for generations and birthed one of the 20th century's most significant superpowers. 8. The Napoleonic Wars. The Napoleonic Wars began in 1803 as France, under Napoleon Bonaparte, fought coalitions of European powers. The wars spanned over a decade and engulfed much of Europe in near-constant warfare. Napoleon's ambition to dominate Europe led to decisive battles like Austerlitz, Borodino, and Leipzig. His military genius brought France great victories, but also terrible losses on all sides. The wars featured mass conscription, mobile artillery, and widespread destruction. Civilian populations often faced looting, hunger, and displacement as armies marched across their lands. After Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812 and his eventual defeat at Waterloo in 1815, Europe experienced massive political restructuring. Estimates of total deaths range from 3.5 to 6 million. These wars reshaped Europe's borders and ideologies. They also marked the beginning of modern warfare and inspired revolutions in Latin America and beyond. 9. The 30 Years' War. 30 Years' War began in 1618 as a conflict between Catholic and Protestant states in the Holy Roman Empire. It soon engulfed most of Europe, becoming one of history's longest and bloodiest religious wars. Initially sparked by Bohemian resistance to Habsburg rule, it escalated into a continental struggle involving Spain, France, Sweden, and many German states. Battles and sieges devastated Central Europe. Mercenary armies plundered towns and spread famine and disease. Civilian deaths often surpassed military casualties. The population of the German states declined by as much as 30% during the conflict. The war ended in 1648 with the Peace of Westphalia, which established modern principles of state sovereignty and religious tolerance. Total deaths are estimated at around 8 million. Its legacy shaped European diplomacy and marked the beginning of the modern nation-state system. The trauma endured by civilians left a lasting cultural scar on the continent. 10. The Korean War. The Korean War began in 1950 when North Korea invaded South Korea. It quickly escalated into a major conflict involving the US, China, and the Soviet Union during the early Cold War. United Nations forces led by the US pushed North Korean troops back, but China's intervention reversed gains. The war became a stalemate near the 38th parallel, with heavy fighting and bombing campaigns. Entire cities were destroyed, and civilian casualties were immense. Millions of refugees fled the fighting. The war featured brutal winter battles, air raids, and trench warfare reminiscent of World War I. An armistice was signed in 1953, ending active combat but not the war itself. Korea remains divided to this day, and tensions still exist along the Demilitarized Zone, DMZ. The Korean War caused 2.5 to 4 million deaths. It was a turning point in Cold War history and set the stage for future US and Chinese military roles in Asia. 11. The Vietnam War. The Vietnam War lasted from 1955 to 1975 and was rooted in colonial history, Cold War rivalry, and Vietnamese independence movements. It pitted communist North Vietnam and its allies against South Vietnam. Backed by the U.S. American involvement escalated in the 1960s with the deployment of hundreds of thousands of troops. Jungle warfare, air raids, and guerrilla tactics made it a grinding and controversial conflict. The war saw widespread use of chemical defoliants like Agent Orange, causing long-term health effects. The My Lai massacre and other atrocities exposed the war's brutal reality to the world. North Vietnam ultimately captured Saigon in 1975, reunifying the country under communist rule. U.S. forces had withdrawn 2 years earlier after signing the Paris Peace Accords. Estimates suggest 2.5 to 3.8 million people died. The war deeply affected U.S. society and reshaped modern warfare and public opinion on foreign intervention. 12. The Congo Wars. The First and Second Congo Wars, 1996-2003, are often called Africa's World War due to the involvement of over 9 African nations and dozens of armed groups. The conflict began after the Rwandan genocide, with forces invading Zaire to dismantle Hutu militias. This led to the overthrow of dictator Mobutu and escalated into a complex regional war. Fighting occurred throughout the Democratic Republic of the Congo, involving mass rape, child soldiers, and resource looting. Millions died from violence, hunger, and disease. Despite peace agreements and UN missions, instability persists. By 2003, over 5 million deaths were estimated, making it the deadliest conflict since World War II. The Congo Wars highlight the link between natural resources, geopolitics, and humanitarian crises in Africa. The region remains volatile despite ongoing peace efforts. 13. The Ethiopian Civil War. The Ethiopian Civil War began in 1974 with the overthrow of Emperor Haile Selassie. It intensified as various rebel groups fought the military Marxist regime known as the Derg. The conflict was marked by mass executions, famines, and forced conscription. The Derg's Red Terror campaign resulted in thousands of deaths and widespread repression. Ethnic separatist movements like the Tigray People's Liberation Front joined the struggle. Prolonged guerrilla warfare and drought devastated rural communities, especially during the 1983-1985 famine. The war officially ended in 1991, when rebels overthrew the government. An estimated 1.4 to 2 million people died from violence, starvation, and disease. The Civil War reshaped Ethiopian politics and left a legacy of trauma. The country continues to face ethnic tensions and instability rooted in this period. 14. The French Wars of Religion. Between 1562 and 1598, France was torn apart by civil wars between Catholics and Huguenots, French Protestants. Religious tensions exploded into armed conflict after the massacre of Vassy. The wars featured massacres, assassinations, and sieges. The most infamous event was the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre in 1572, where thousands of Huguenots were slaughtered in Paris and beyond. These conflicts drew in foreign powers and weakened the French monarchy. Villages and towns suffered repeated pillaging, famine, and depopulation, especially in contested provinces. The war ended with the Edict of Nantes in 1598, granting Protestants limited rights. An estimated 3 million people died, including civilians and combatants. The wars left deep divisions in French society. The eventual rise of absolutism under Louis XIV was partly a reaction to this chaos. 15. The Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Civil War, 1927-1949, pitted the Kuomintang nationalists against the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. It began after the fall of the Qing dynasty and fractured attempts to unify China. Initial conflicts paused during the Second Sino-Japanese War, but fighting resumed in 1946, escalating into full-scale warfare between Mao Zedong's communists and Chiang Kai-shek's nationalists. The communists gained support from rural populations, using guerrilla warfare and strategic retreats like the Long March. Nationalist forces, weakened by corruption and poor morale, lost ground rapidly. By 1949, the CCP declared the People's Republic of China. The nationalists fled to Taiwan, where they established a rival government. The war killed around 8 million people. The Civil War shaped modern Asia's geopolitics. Its legacy remains central to China-Taiwan relations and the global balance of power. If you're passionate about uncovering the forgotten stories of our past, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Don't forget to like the video if you're enjoying the journey so far. And stay tuned because there's so much more history waiting to be unearthed, right here on Buried Truths.